Greetings, my name is Did you guys miss me? Sorry for the absence. Mockery here thought he could take the show from me by throwing me into a warped, twisted realm where my atoms would be reshaped at a constant rate, but no, I got out, and I'm back. And if you've been hopping along my low-sub Disaster Factory channel for a while, you've probably seen me play a game called Funkeys. Whether or not you've actually watched the series is unknown to me, but you've likely at least seen snippets of it strewn about the channel. It's not the most well-known game in the world, matching my obscurity perfectly. Within it are dozens of beautiful areas with several games to play and enjoy, and as one of the currently active Funkeys videos makers, I've taken it upon myself to rank each of these areas within the game. So without further ado, greetings, my name is 8020 and
Rules! You must discuss the rules!
Oh, God, shut up and
Speaking of the rules and all that, yeah!
Okay, fine. The rules are simple with this one. Each area that'll be discussed in the video are areas that appear in the game that act as hub worlds to each of the games in the game, and it must have a portal that leads to it, or a gateway to access it. However, some idiot will likely try to argue that by these rules, the player's crib and the fan zone for the Speed Racer area is technically an area, since you can access games from the crib and the Speed Racer area is like a hub of sorts. But the reason this argument is invalidated is that you must play the game in the world you find it in and hit a high score in order to play it in the crib, and the fan zone has no games. And with that out of the way, I'm out of things to say, so let's get to the video! If you're a part of the fanbase, you know exactly what gets this spot. For those who haven't played Funkeys, I should enlighten you as to a little bit of Funkeys trivia. During the development of Funkeys, Mattel asked the boys at Radica to do a crossover with the 2008 Speed Racer movie, and they created the entirety of the Royalton racing complex to house these guys. But 8020, you might shriek, why is it at the bottom of the list? It looks like a neat place. Well, it could be that this crossover is considered to be the inciting incident that led to Funky's downfall, or maybe it's the distinct feeling that this area is a lot less creative than the rest of the game. You get this feeling of whimsy and creativity from all of the areas in the game, and the Funky's designs are all interesting, but the RRC just has Speed Racer characters. That's not that bad, well, except for Trixie, whose eyes gauge into my soul, but then you realize that there are things in this area that weren't released. Chim Chim only has one variant, despite meaning to have three. A special version of Speed himself never got past being prototyped. Tayo literally doesn't exist, despite having a game fully programmed in, and the area's robber is just a shadow because his sprites weren't put into the game. This area was part of the Funkeys' second wave. It had 3 more waves after that and was never truly finished. Incomplete from the start, bringing ruin to the game in the long run. What's worse than playing several boring games? Playing one boring game several times! The Hidden Realm is the weakest area in the game in my eyes. Its whole existence is centered around a multiplayer game that you battle with specific Funkeys, but now that the online servers are down, you could imagine how boring the game has become. It's just spam a button to win the game, win a trophy, repeat. And it's not even that rewarding in the end, since there are no shops in the Hidden Realm. Another lame problem this area produces are the gates. In order to open the gates, you must use multiple different Funkeys as keys, assuming you have enough to begin with. If you only had 3 before the Funky Selector mod was made, you never even reached the top of the Hidden Realm, and you'd be unable to play anything if you had none of the Hidden Realm figures. Now that we've covered the areas in the game that are just outright the worst in my opinion, we're gonna cover the areas that actually made me think. Some decisions took me a good while, others were on impulse. This was the latter. Kelpie Basin is just one of those areas in the game that I find to be just there and there's nothing else to say about it. Although I've had both Glub and Twinks since the game was still active online, and even before I had more than 5 Funkeys, I hardly ever went to play their games. I've never played Fish Bowling because I hated it with all my being, still do. And I really played Twinks' game because I didn't really feel it to be super challenging and engaging. It's just Space Invaders, but awkward. Even now, upon obtaining the ability to access all of the games in this area, I can say that only 2 of the 4 games there are enjoyable. And the other 2 are tedious to an insane degree. The area still looks nice, but it's a little forgettable. Same goes for the music. When analyzing the areas this game had to offer, I really had to focus on how it looked, how the denizens looked, its games, and its music. After Kelpie Basin, that became difficult, because the music alone in some areas can cause it to skyrocket in position. It's times like this I had to consider my experiences with the level, and the subsequent fusing with bias led me to this decision. Now, before you guys boo me into non-existence, let me justify my reasons for putting Laputa here. Put simply, I never really went here all that much. I came here less than I did Kelpie, actually. So why is it above Kelpie? It has to do with its atmosphere and characters. Everything here kind of fits. You've got aliens, scientists, monsters, and stuntmen, whatever. Regardless of occupation, the guys here stand out enough to be creative, and they feel right in the place they belong, unlike Kelpie Basin, the underwater area with 1 fish, Tiki, a plant, and Twinks. Laputa is also home to ROM, which is one of the most popular chat funkies in the Funky Discord. Its music is nothing special, and a few of its games are plain, but in its simplicity, there's beauty. This one was actually a bit annoying to rank because personally it's one of my favorite areas, but I felt as though I needed to rank it fairly opposed to the other areas in the game, and so I just put it below the halfway point and called it a day. One of the 2 dream states introduced after the Speed Racer disaster was Daydream Oasis, the land of dreams! It's designed to look really trippy with music that emphasizes this. The funkies that live there make sense to a degree. It's really cool to look at, and their designs here are just amazing. The only reason that I felt it necessary to put it below the top 5 is because all of the games here suck ass. You've got a scuba game that makes little to no sense, then 2 multiplayer games, one's too hard and one's too tedious, and lastly, there's Ice Cream Math Class. Now sure, you can have fun with these games, but they'd be so much better if online matches were still possible. Playing alone in this area just feels depressing. I should also add this area was the second to last introduced to me, because I didn't have a Daydream Oasis funky until the end of the game's life, so I didn't even have that much time to play in this area. When a game first comes out with its first big update, more often than not, it is compelled to pack as much stuff in as possible to entertain its audience's fleeting attention span. The developers may feel the need to make it almost as big as the game, enough to be considered DLC! But that's not what this is, in a sense. It is easy to claim it to be such, so in light of this plausible ideal, the number 5 spot goes to... Funky Key Island was probably the biggest addition to the game past the original 4 zones to play from. It had its own separate, complete story, with exploration being combined with the main goal of playing games to work towards beating the game. You see, what stands out above the rest in Funky Key Island is the fact that you have to actively move around the map and collect things to complete its story, which made this area a ton more interesting when I went to complete it. It has really fun games, including Sunshine Links to spite my history with it, and has some great music, characters, and feels just as relaxing as an actual resort. Time is irrelevant and so are you! Good lord, I spent a while trying to figure this one out. Paradox Green is literally the most vibrant and interesting place in the game! It's a culmination of all 4 seasons occurring at once, hence the paradox. Unfortunately, my own personal biases, along with some other reasons, slammed it down to the number 4 spot. It's good, but this area is the last area that was added in the game. Its figures all only have 1 variant, which is the very rare variant, and this area is just... This area's beauty is incredible, but it is sullied by the fact that this is the last area that made it into the game. Its incredible story and music will not go unnoticed, though. Paradox Green is one of the best locations in the game, design-wise, character-wise, and story-wise, but, again, I just found a few others that just felt better to me. It's completely opinion from this one.
Have y'all ever wanted to take a bath in Nightmare's flesh pit?
The Nightmare Rift had to be in my top 3, and I'm not sorry. It's got great music, great design, great characters. It's just great! When you enter this area and look around, you're taken aback by all that there is to see. Scrap litters the area.
Flesh engorges the very ground you walk upon.
An ancient mummy temple lingers to the left, and a berated war zone is just sitting nearby. This area bleeds with cliches, but takes them and reimagines them into the incredible locale that is the Nightmare Rift. I spend a lot of time in this area just wandering around and enjoying its music. It's got plenty of cool stuff lying around too, so if you visit, take a look around. Okay, this one might disappoint hardcore Funky fans, but... yeah, knowing the fans, Magna Gorge probably should have been the top spot. It's got the most memorable characters, being a ninja, a skeleton, a demon, and Stitch. It's got some top-notch games all tied up by killer music that is close to being the best song in the game. Now, some may argue that it should be way lower, like Kelpie, because it's really just a huge gray rock with lava near it. Yet, I think this only supports the creative power that the dev team truly had. They took a basic concept like a volcano area and brought it to life in a way that gave it enough creativity to stand on its own, and it's truly beautiful. For those of you paying attention, you probably should have expected this.
Yep, Funkeys Town beat Magna Gorge.
Why did I rank it so high? I don't know, it's not my most favorite area. Maybe I'm just crazy. Nah, it's actually because of this area's purpose and execution of said purpose. This area is the hub world of every other area you can get anywhere from here. Some areas have portals to other areas, but this area has portals to every area. You cannot get anywhere without this place being your starting point. This place is where you'll be most of the time, and the devs knew this. It's got the most places to explore, the most games to play, and it houses the library that contains information about the very lore of UB Funkeys.
It has lore!
Everything in Funkeys Town serves a purpose. It exists to provide you with what the game could be, and as the game's surface is what likely hooks people into buying the figures in the first place, since you cannot go to other areas unless you have one of the Funkeys for that areas, excluding the Hidden Realm. Alright, there you go. Those are my opinions of each area in the game ranked. Do I agree with all of them? No, but I couldn't let my bias alone run this whole thing. I'm satisfied with this list though, so I needn't worry about changing it anytime soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and this is 8020, glitching out.